about 3:02 in the afternoon in New York City. It is me again this week, Michael, coming with at you from Syncopated City. This week's special guest I'm very excited about because even though she's a fellow American, she actually lives here in London with me. She doesn't live with me, but we're in the same city. And we've chatted quite a bit, and I think tonight's conversation is going to be great. Before we get into that, however, because she's backstage, I will say that Evita is also with us. She's manning the keyboards. So if you're watching from either our Facebook channel, the Michael and Evita Facebook channel, or our Syncopated City Facebook channel, comments that you write, she will see there. And if you're watching us on YouTube, then she's also there. So we'll try to keep an eye on the comments, but even if we can't respond immediately, Evita should be there. Without further ado, I'm going to bring out the lovely, the indomitable, the ever-present, are you ready? Miss T the Machine! Tine, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, cool.
The hardest part is getting...
I know. Am I in? All right. Whew.
Hi.
Hi.
First of all, can I say cheers to you?
Cheers. Yay.
Now, it's...
Oh.
That's
nice. It's very spicy.
So,
mine is spicy.
Mine is spicy as well. We got to get this out of the way first and foremost. What are we drinking? And why are we drinking? Well, the reason, when I asked you to join me on this live stream, what did you say? Do you remember?
I said the first things first. What are we going to drink?
Yeah, perfect. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great conversation. We are both lovers of the cocktail, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And we are also both lovers of mezcal.
Yes.
Yes. So, you have a nice one. You're rocking the System Mysterious.
Mysterious.
Is it a Hoven?
Yes. Hoven.
One. I'm rocking mine's over there, but it's the Vita Classic.
Good
Can't
one.
go wrong, Del Maguey. So this drink, actually, when you're like, what are we having for a cocktail? I was like, thank you, my lovely assistant Carolina says, Vita. Delicious. Thank you. This cocktail recipe I have, it's actually the drink is called A Night in Tunisia. And it was, in fact, I'll tell you the ingredients right now. This is 1 ounce of rye or bourbon. I think you're using bourbon, correct?
Yes, I'm using bourbon.
She's using that Four Roses, delicious. Using the Bullet Rye. I don't need
my favorite.
So it's 1 ounce of that. It's half an ounce of mezcal. It's 0.7 ounces or 3/4 of an ounce of lemon juice and 3/4 of an ounce of ginger syrup.
Homemade.
Mine's also in the kitchen, and then of course it's garnished with a piece of ginger candy, which is a lovely byproduct. Mine's also over there. Man, I didn't do anything with me. That is beautiful, and it's the ginger syrup is just a lovely byproduct of making the ginger candy, so it's a bonus. And then a couple dashes of Angostura bitters, perfect. Ta-da! I think you have a little bit more bitters in yours than mine, so that's why.
Yeah, maybe I was like.
Hey, you got excited. It's fine.
Yeah, I said dash.
Yeah. And this drink comes from the bartender in New York City by the name of Souther Teague. He has a bitters bar in the East Village, and he has an outpost in Brooklyn called Amor y Amargo, along with a couple of other bars. So that's the history of the drink, and it's important to know where these things come from. And speaking of where we come from, Tine, I know who you are.
Hi.
Who are you? Where do you come from?
Where I come from?
What's your story?
I grew up in the Bay. That's Northern California for, I guess, people who don't know.
Yeah.
And I started off with tap and like modern jazz and hip hop and cheerleading and and whatever street jazz, commercial hip hop, whatever that choreography stuff people do
Oh, yeah.
in music videos. And then in 2004, I moved to New York because I wanted to learn about more about dance and house specifically. And I wanted to go to learn more hip hop where it was born. And I also, just wanted to be more around more dancers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Even though the
get
Bay
down in the club.
the Bay Area's got a strong dance representation as well.
They do. Maybe more choreography based and like crews of tons of Filipinos doing choreography.
Right.
I mean, I came from that as well. And there's a lot of B-boys and B-girls. There's tons of dancing there too.
Yeah. So you went to New York.
And to New York, yeah.
And it was everything you'd hoped for and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the dance scene, I just discovered so many different styles of dance, and was really immersed in like club culture. You know, going out every night if I could, going out till 5 a.m. on weekdays, going to shelter or going to sleep at 10 p.m., waking up at 5 a.m. so I could go to shelter, be there by 6 so I can have breakfast, and then dance till like noon or 1 p.m.
Oh,
That was the way of life at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. And so out in New York City, mostly house, or that was a big...
Yeah, that was the big thing that I was into. But then when you go to some clubs like Sin Sin, they play all the different different genres of music. They'll have like a funk or 2 different rooms and funk set, hip hop set, and mostly like a lot of the dancers in New York, they do more than one style. So even if they did house, they also did hip hop, they also did voguing, they also did whacking, they also did pop and lock, because there was just so much. Because everyone is around you and you see someone else doing a thing and you're like, ooh, I want to learn that too. Or, you just exchange with someone else. So everyone knew how to do a little bit of everything.
Right.
Yeah, but mostly house. I was mostly like quite obsessed with house. And then I met a bunch of girls who were like-minded and we made a house crew. But all of them were super versed in everything else. And they were like B-girls, capoeiristas, and like into Congolese. And we all loved voguing and whacking as well. So we always exchanged.
So in that, were you taking class as well, or were you just going to the clubs?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, both. I mean, I mean, some people like to just only go to the clubs, but because I came from kind of a class atmosphere or grew up going to classes, I very much liked going into a studio and trying to work out the technique and whatnot. I did a lot of following Brian Greene around and whatever he taught, and E.J. Wilson and Marjorie Smarth.
So Marjorie, that's a name that I keep hearing over and over. I was actually this morning, for me it was in the morning, and speaking of the Bay Area, Monsell Durden was giving a talk, and he mentioned Marjorie, and I was like, I know Tine mentioned her as well, and I've heard a couple of other dancers back when I was in New York City taking class mention Marjorie, Sekou. I was like, and I think she passed. Is that true?
Yeah, she did a few years ago, and that was pretty devastating for the community.
What was she like? Because she was a huge. Obviously, she's a pinnacle in the house scene.
Yeah, I mean, she was kind of the queen, and she didn't just do house, but she did hip hop. I mean, she was definitely in some music videos doing hip hop, and would tour to Japan, but she was the lady in the club who would do a bunch of movements, usually African inspired movements, and then people would watch her, and 2 weeks later, everyone is doing that move. Because she was just super influential, and she could hustle. I mean, I think the first time I ever did Latin hustle was with her, and then she was just she had the best vibe. She was like this, so much energy and so much style and so much warmth. And so much silliness.
Right.
Yeah, she was like a dance mom to us all.
Okay. And I just want to say, because for those of you out there who are watching, who are kind of like, why are we talking about hip hop? Stay with us because we're going somewhere with it. There's a plan. If you're a Lindy Hopper out there and you're like, why are we talking about hip hop? Hold your breath because it's going to be worth it. But we're building a case here. To know someone, so get to know Tine. I would like to, because you were kind enough to share some videos and direct me. I'd like to quickly show just a little bit of Marjorie dancing. And you said, I think in this clip, you said it was probably at a festival in Italy. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's I believe it's called The Week,
Okay.
but Poppin' Pete is the one who posted this video, so y'all should know who Poppin' Pete is. Once you look at this video, click on his other videos because he's also a legend in dance, particularly in popping.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to just show, just to give a little sense of, because we're all talking about Marjorie, and I want people to see who she is. Just a quick note: while I do share the video, Tine, we won't be able to hear you. But when we come back, everything will be golden. So here we go. Here's a little bit of Marjorie.
Damn girl, you're so good. You can feel the girl. Sometimes I can't believe that he said to me. I get this feeling that I never had in my soul. As sure as the sky holds the sun, said I know I got me.
Yeah. Nice.
Hmm.
That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Cool.
she was beautiful. She is beautiful.
Yeah. There was somewhat like, and again, we're actually going to put up a playlist at the end of, because you created a playlist with all the videos that you've shared with me. We probably won't get to all of those videos tonight, but it's definitely worth going down that rabbit hole, in our opinion, because it's got great stuff. And you can see that full clip there. But like right off the bat, I love that some girl was like trying to cut through the cipher or that circle and she almost got taken out. But Marjorie didn't even, like, she incorporated that moment into her thing, like it didn't phase her at all. Like that was great.
Yeah.
And like the gesticulate, like she was really like creating a story. There was a connection to what she was doing that was deeper than what, like, it wasn't about the lyrics. There was something, there was a lot going on there.
Yeah, so groovy, and like I think she wasn't even doing that much footwork. I mean, you should look at her other clips and she's like footwork all day, but this one, it's like you can it really shows that you can express so much without like worrying about what your feet are doing and like worrying about steps, and she's just like so in the moment, and that was yeah, such a lovely thing about her.
Yeah. And you mentioned Brian Green as well. You and I both have had the pleasure of in class with Brian. And we've got a great clip of him, which I assume, maybe incorrectly, I assume a lot of people have seen that clip, but we're going to share that towards the end as well, because I think it fits better with where we're going. But yeah, we could talk for a long time about Brian.
Yeah.
But so you're in New York, and you're immersing yourself in this house scene with hip hop. There's a lot of not just social dancing, class taking, exchange of ideas. Did you already know how to Lindy Hop, or when did Lindy Hop come into your
Well,
picture?
it was when a friend of mine said, "Oh, I have a Groupon. We should go to dance sport and there's unlimited classes, and we're like, what? But I mean, I wanted to learn Lindy Hop because we'd moved to Harlem, and I was like, oh, I would like to learn this dance of my neighborhood. I want to connect with the community. I want to also learn the roots of all the dances that, like, I want to learn more about jazz and learn, the roots of the dances that I'm doing. What informed house, you know? But yeah, what really happened is that we got a Groupon. And then we took a bunch of classes. We took like salsa. We already knew how to do hustle from the clubs, but then we also took tango, and then we took Lindy Hop. And after that first month of unlimited classes, it's expensive. So Lindy Hop and tango were the ones that stuck.
Okay.
I mean, tango only stuck for 3 months, but Lindy Hop really stuck.
That's funny. So where in Harlem were you?
146 and St. Nick.
Man. See, what's crazy is that, and we were talking about this earlier today, but I was like, our paths, like, we were kind of...
we probably were at the same exit.
Right.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, because what year was this? 2013?
2011
11?
or so, yeah.
Yeah.
2010 is, I think, when we moved to Harlem or so.
Yeah, so I was just a few blocks south of you by that point.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right, so who are your teachers in New York?
Who are my teachers? Oh, for Lindy Hop?
Yeah, sorry, for Lindy Hop, yeah.
Oh, it was Brian Lawton, who would learn from you and Evita.
Oh,
yeah.
Brian,
so I'm part of that lineage too.
You are fired, Brian. You know what it means. All right, so cool. So Brian, was Samantha teaching with him at that point?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. It was just him.
His future wife. Yeah, Brian and Samantha Brian was actually he was the president of I think the ballroom club at NYU, but then also the swing club. Mm-hmm. And then, and I forgot how I met him. It must have been through some sort of like, hey, will you come teach a thing at NYU? And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah. And then they put on a kind of an intercollegiate workshop and contest weekend. And so I taught for that, which is where I met Samantha. And then later when Evita and I had our dance company, we brought them in. And then I remember, they were teaching at Dance Sport, or Brian was teaching at Dance Sport, and then they broke off and started teaching their own classes as well. And so you and Phil, can I throw out Phil's name?
Yeah.
Phil's name. Your partner. So the two of you were taking Lindy Hop classes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that's how you got into Lindy Hop.
Yes.
And then what?
And then here I am, immersed in Lindy Hop, and that's all I do now.
Right.
No,
true?
No, I'm just kidding. That's not true.
Well, somehow you got from New York to London.
Yes. Oh, well, I do visual effects for movies. That I do lighting specifically for like blockbusters, summer blockbusters, those sort of things. So there's this little movie called Guardians of the Galaxy, and that brought me over here. And I thought it was just going to be a short thing, and then we loved it, and I'm here now, and a permanent resident. So
wow,
yeah.
So you also, I think, more recently you did Lion King as well.
Mm-hmm. Lion King. I did the last Jurassic World. I did Jungle Book. Yeah.
Your swag.
Swag, totally swag. Which was also doubles up as a shaker. Ready Player One. I think those are enough.
So that's actually what you like in terms of like how you generate most of your income. That's right, in the pre-COVID times. That's
pre-COVID times. Yeah. Yeah, that was my bread and butter, and then dance is just for fun.
Yeah, and yet, have you? What's the hip hop house? What are those scenes like here in London?
Not as it's funny. London is London people love and they know their music really well, but they don't really. I mean, there's a little bit of dance culture, but it's very young and it's a little bit more green. You don't have like 60-year-olds rolling around on the ground with you at the club. It's just it's like it's a lot of people, and I think a lot of it is more it's more European, so they like to train for battles, or like the vibe is like I'm gonna work and practice my dancing for this battle rather than do a marathon of dance to get my frustrations and my hard week of work out. Yeah. So it doesn't seem as conversational or community like as much as New York.
And speaking of communities, I think that kind of brings us around to the crux of, well, basically I was like, hey, would you like to do this Wednesday session with me? And you're like, yeah. And then after the what are we drinking cup question, it kind of, you came up with a kind of a working title or a theme. I'll let you say it, but
which was, well, my can we decolonize Lindy Hop? And why can't I bring my black friends to your whitewashed party?
That's a hell of a question, Tine. I love it though. What does that even mean? What do you mean by, like, when you say decolonizing Lindy Hop? That, I guess that might suggest that it has been colonized.
Yeah. I mean, what is valued and what is awarded and what is put on a pedestal and what is shared is a very Eurocentric sensibility in dance. It's which is like, yeah, okay, there's very formulaic and there's very nice lines and let's gather and collect so many moves, but there's not a lot of flavor in between. It's just like unseasoned chicken. I mean, sometimes it's good. It's like, maybe organic, but it's like there's no sabor. Like, where's the flavor? Like, I mean, there's shape A and there's shape B, and you just get to shape B, but there's no, like, dance in between. Yeah.
Would you, do you feel like that is something, did you notice that right away? Or is that something you noticed when you got to London? Or, like, when did you start going like, hey?
Well, I did notice it in New York. Because, I mean, New York is super diverse and there's tons of people of color, but then you go to the Lindy Hop scene and there's not so many people of color. You do have some, what is awesome about New York is you do have some, like, the older black elders, which is awesome. And like, that's the corner I go to because I know that's where the flavor is going to be. I know where the vibe is going to be. I don't feel like I'm going to be overled when I go hang out with like Ice and all his friends. But yeah, it just seems not proportionate to what, it doesn't reflect the general population of the city. Yeah.
And how, in your estimation, how did we get here? Do you know? No.
I don't know. Well, maybe lack of accountability. Maybe people, in particular white people, saying, well, I'm going to do that thing and I'm going to teach. And it's like, oh, like, who said you could teach, or who gave you the cosign? And then those people teaching other people, and then those teaching other people, and so the people 5 generations in don't know any better, and it's not really their fault, but also it's kind of their fault. It's not like there aren't videos out there to show you what the dance really is. And then people forget, like, people keep on sharing all these, like, ILHC videos, and it's like, everyone's white, oh my God. And then you share more, like, European videos, and everyone's white, and it's like, wait a minute, is this a black, this is a black dance? Like, you just end up culturally erasing the people who created the dance. Yeah.
I think it's, when Evita and I were talking about, we weren't talking about this. Well, we were a little bit last week. I had said, I had this theory of, like, people don't have to work hard to attain anything for it. So when the price of admission is free or almost free, then it's really easy to come in and take what you want of something and the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get it being accessible, and I think that's great. You should like come in, and I love the social aspect of it and how it's like helping people with like people's mental health, and I think that's super important as well. But I think you also have to remember where it came from and remember that you're like anyone who's not Black is a guest in this culture, and that you still have to think about honoring the elders and everyone who paved the way before you, especially if it's a dance that came from oppression, and releasing like the feelings and oppression that you had, at the time when they created it. You can't forget the conditions that made this dance.
Do you feel like the hip hop culture, the dance cultures, have done a better job of retaining their?
Yeah. Well, I think fortunately for like hip hop and house, locking, popping, at least the founders are still alive, and they will call you out if you're doing some bullshit. Like even Brian Green, like if I have named something wrong on Instagram, like I called this step that goes like this a three-way, or no, I called it a shuffle because it's called a three-way shuffle, but I said, oh, I'm practicing shuffles today, and he's like, that's not a shuffle, that isn't a shuffle, and I'm like, okay, I mean it's a three-way. I'm sorry.
He was lurking on Instagram.
Yeah, just like trolling me. I mean there's like so much accountability, and like even you go in the cipher, not every cipher is made for you. There's sometimes like little playful ones, and then sometimes there's a big boy one. And if you come in like the big boy circle with some bullshit, maybe someone will like kick you out. Or I forgot the name of the guy, but there was a guy in one of the clubs, and if you were garbage, he would pick you up and put it in the trash. So if you have that kind of like, maybe I shouldn't do that, or maybe I should like up my game sense, like mentality, then you strive to be better. Like in New York, there's no easy props. You don't just be like, hey, I did a thing, and then everyone's like, oh, very good with you, very good, you're awesome. When I think in many times in the Lindy Hop world, anyone who's coordinated is like, oh my God, they're amazing, and it's like, oh, congratulations, you're coordinated. But
how do you think I got here? No, that's an interesting. It's not interesting. It's just that's, I think, culturally where we talk about like there's a difference. I have felt and I have seen in the last 20 plus years that I've been a part of this dance, an increase in this idea of inclusivity, but that has clearly come at the become exclusive of the culture that created this dance. And the fact that like even the thought of calling someone out would be like, oh,
forbid. Like even if it's like totally wrong, like even if your actual footwork and timing is off, like you're off beat and it's actually wrong, it's like I'm just like not in the right space to get a note. I didn't ask for that note. Yeah. I mean, in New York, I would get notes. Even if I don't want a note, it'd be like, nah, you should do this instead. Okay, I'll work on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
In that talk this morning that Monsell was giving, he even spoke of the Cat's Corner in the Savoy being a place where if you didn't belong there, like the people would let you know because they'd kick you. There was a physical reminder of your place if you crossed lines, not cultural lines, but like just the social lines, the societal, because there's a hierarchy involved. Like there is a sense of elders and a sense of place. And when you overstep that, either intentionally or unintentionally, someone will be there to let you know.
Yeah. Like, I think, we took a workshop with Mickey, and she said that, like, for a year, she did not get up and dance, but she sat and she watched a rehearsal for a year. Did not dance, did not practice, did not work it out. And then like a year later, Norma was like, okay, get up, you're going to perform at this thing now. Like, oh my God.
I remember, yeah, when she was, because she came to London last fall, and she was doing a workshop, and I remember in that part of the talk, she was talking about when she first joined the dance. It was the performance group that Norma ran, but I mean Frankie and a lot of those dancers were still a part of the group, and she said that part of when she did, once she was in the group, she was still the youngest member. Yes, it was Mickey Davidson. Thank you, Evita. And she said that she was in the back, like she went to the toilets, and the other ladies, like in the toilets, like they pulled her aside and said, "You need to, like, you're not wearing the correct rehearsal clothes. You need to be this." And she was like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, good.
And she told a story of connected to that, of where, like, after a rehearsal, they all went out to a bar to have a drink, and the older members of the group were in a conversation, and Mickey, wanting to be a part of it, inserted herself into the conversation, which stopped the conversation. And one of them looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, like, who invited you to speak?" Essentially, like, you're still the young pup in the.
Yeah, kind of like, what do you know about anything, youngin', or something like that.
He was an adult and a professionally trained. Like, it wasn't like she was some kid who had never learned a dance step.
Yeah.
So, so there is that sense of elders and hierarchy and knowing your place that doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like even like now I'm taking a lot of tap, and there's like, okay, there are not that many elders left either, but the people who are around now always like give the information of who their teacher was, who their mentor was, and then the steps and who taught them that, and then maybe who taught them that, and that. It's like you always have to know and be accountable for what you're teaching, especially if you're collecting money from people. You need to know your stuff, and you need to honor the people who came before you, unless you're like donating your proceeds to, yeah, especially if you're just taking the money for profit. You need to honor everyone who came before you. Like, it's just not fair otherwise.
So what would honoring the culture, honoring our elders, honoring the dance, what would that look like? What do you like? What are the actual, like, how do we honor the?
Well, I mean, I think you mentioned a good example, like, and I think it was even in Evita's solo jazz class, and you might have said in the chat room, okay, well, this is a Shorty George. Who is Shorty George? What did he do? Like, what movie was it in? It's just like, we need to say their names, remember who they are, and yeah, say their names, remember who they are, and hopefully, like, try to honor their movement too, and the intention in their movement. And if you can't, at least, embellish on it and not make it derivative. Yeah.
I know. So I used to take class from a lady named Robin Dunn, and Robin used to teach a couple places, but she was teaching at Steps. And she had like a Monday night class, and it was fine. It was like it was just above intro to hip hop, perfectly my speed for things. But I would talk to her, and she said one time, if you want to take more, I also teach at Ailey. I teach it's not the extension classes, but it's the classes for the students who are all at Ailey, and they need to kind of like, it's their non-modern curriculum. And so I was like, all right. So I'd go take her class there, and she would do this thing, like, she had a whole warm-up, like typical 45-minute warm-up. And as you're going through the warm-up, she's leading the warm-up, but she's also walking through and saying, like, she would say, like, Tine, list one of the 5 elements of hip hop culture. And you'd have to know. B-boying, is it graffiti? Is it MC? Like, and she would just quiz people, like, what's a Fresno? Like, just like the basic foundational historical concepts or elements of the dance because that was a well-rounded education or a more well-rounded education. So
Mm-hmm.
the students understood why they were doing what they're doing, where it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's really cool. So I started doing that in my classes as best as I could as well. Like asking basic questions, like, all right, I'm going to teach a shim sham class. Like, who ask any like who created the shim sham? And 9 times out of 10, especially you get people who go Frankie Man, and you're like, wasn't the person, not the right answer. And
Yeah.
it's a chance for you to not stop the class to make it a history lesson, but as you're going through things, in just those little moments.
Yeah, the history should be included.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's more interesting to know the intentions behind and the stories behind the moves if you know the history.
That's what I was saying when we were watching Marjorie, like that gesture she had with to me it was like a crown. She was doing something with a crown in this. Like there was something behind the movement that gave that move life.
Yeah, so much storytelling and soul and and intention, which I don't always see a lot of soul, and that's what I'm yearning often when I go to Lindy Hop events, because it's like often very move based and like get from A to B sort of based, instead of like what is the journey between like how are you going to express that move, like when I'm dancing with Ice, he's got 3 moves, but you could do it like 100 different spicy ways. That's I feel is more satisfying for me as a dancer, is to find different ways to do to express a move, rather than like okay, I know how to do 100 Texas Tommies like all different ways, is not as important to me. Yeah.
How do you I kind of know the answer, but do you work on your dancing outside of class?
Yeah. I practice. I practice a lot.
I'm not trying to call you out.
But yeah, because I value the dance and I respect the dance, and it's like, and I totally get if the dance is to like, to go and have fun and release, which is very important as well. But if you care about the dance, then you would practice. And I feel like people don't like to practice. They want to practice aerials, because obviously if you don't practice aerials, you'll drop someone on their head. But people don't like to practice their swing outs. I'm still working on my swing out. I still think it's like rubbish. So I'm still working on my rhythm. I'm still learning how to swing, like make my footwork swing. So yeah, I do practice a lot, and then I try different other dances. Like I'm taking a lot of Afro beats now, and like UK jazz and tap. Like I said, I do practice.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of like the whole first half of this discussion was asking you about, your experiences coming up through New York in the hip hop and the house scenes, because like you said, those dancers can do other styles. They may not even say that they can, like, they're not going to call themselves, oh, I'm also a b-boy. If they know like house is their thing, they're not going to say, I'm a b-boy.
Yeah, they usually just say I'm a dancer.
Right.
Yeah. So.
But I think oftentimes I have seen in the Lindy Hop scene, like at best you'll get someone who specializes. At best.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, but I also do Val and Shag, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Right. And I think, like that kind of cross training is, Brian. Speaking of Brian getting on me, he was like, you need to be taking house classes. Like that's the logical through line for you is house footwork.
Oh.
Okay. And actually, Monsell said that today as well. He was like, house is the most kind of related to like vernacular jazz because of footwork and the shapes, and there's a lot of similar shapes as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do participate in a lot of the other scenes because they're just not as whitewashed. They're still, there's still a lot of especially like house, and there's still like a lot of Black kids who want to do this thing because it's cool. And I feel like a lot of Facebook, it's so great that everyone is learning their history. Like we told everyone, like we just said, you need to learn how to do your history, or you need to know your history. But I mean, there's a lot of people who read more books than I did, but then they still teach like a super bland dance. So I mean, when you see, if you are like my friends, like my crew, Mau, like, some of them are Black, some of them are white, some are Latina, some of them are Asian. But then they look at like what the Lindy Hoppers are doing, and they're like, "Ooh, that's corny. I don't want to go to that." Like, why would I want to bring my friends to a place that's super corny or just makes them feel like, ooh? Like one of my friends, Tara, who's in the chat, like her grandmother used to go to the Savoy, and she feels like, and she's like, I've taken her to these events, and she just feels like everyone is bastardizing her grandma's club dance. Like, that's not fair. Like, you could just see everyone just butchering this dance, and it just, like, that makes her feel attacked. It makes my eyes feel attacked when I see corny shit.
We can say that. True. So, all right. So then that takes me to this, like, all right, give honor. Dance to our elders, aside from just like saying their names, knowing your history, what else can organizers do anything? Like, can scene organizers do anything to change?
I don't know. I mean, people do ask me like, oh, how do you get more soulful, or like, how do you get, how do we get more young Black kids into our scene? And it's like, if you do that, it's going to be very tokenism. Like, maybe you should get more Black friends in your social circle, like outside of dance.
There we go.
And if you can't, maybe you should wonder why, and look deeply in yourself, why maybe some Black people don't want to be friends with you. Like, I don't know, maybe are you a Becky? Maybe are you
Karen? Ken? There, yeah, have a sip. Well, what about this Eurocentric kind of disposition on the dance, globally speaking? Because it's reaffirmed in a couple of different ways, not just the imagery of like sharing videos and things like that, but also like at events, if the judges, like, who's your judging panel for these?
Yeah. Sometimes these judging panels, it's like, oh, that person has been dancing for 3 years, and they won a few contests. Yeah, cool. When they won a few contests where those panels were a whole bunch of like white people who also dance like this. Like, I mean, okay, what was the question?
I will say, like, watching some of the, like, on YouTube, like hip hop battles and things like that, when you have at a weekend, usually there's like a judge's like demo. Well,
yeah, there's usually a judge's demo. Like, oh my God, if Lindy Hop events, if I could call out judges and it would be okay, I would do that. But they just not let me into things. But I would like to call, go to B-Boy battle and you feel like your judging is unfair, you call someone out. Yeah. So.
Well, I think, I feel like there's a couple of things I'd like to show. Speaking of judges' battles, there is a clip I had kind of alluded to with Brian Green that I just really want to show because it's great. And if you've never seen Brian Green dance, it's great. But it also, to me, like, it demonstrates his versatility because he's going to come out, I think, 4 times. It's kind of it's an edited clip. It's not all the judges doing the thing. But he comes out and he's giving you all these different styles under that genre of hip hop. So and street dances. So I'd like to. Do you have anything to say about the clip? If you know,
I don't know that much about the clip.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we're just gonna watch it if that's
okay.
And then we'll come back and discuss. Here we go. I mean,
Hey. And we should also mention that, yeah, he's worked with Norma and is also a tap dancer.
right,
So it's not like he's irrelevant to the Lindy Hop scene.
right. And I think, yeah, like in there, I mean, at one point he came out, he did some whacking because he was probably reflecting based on the person who came out before him. And then at one point he put some tap steps in there, and then he's putting some African steps in there. So, like, he knows his, not just knows his history academically, he knows it, like,
Yeah, he knows how to create intentions, like in different intentions, different very very clear intentions for yeah. I guess he just knows how to speak all these different languages,
hmm.
and yeah, I
Well,
guess a lot of Lindy Hoppers just learn lots of words but don't know how to say them poignantly. Is I think what I'm trying to get at.
yeah. There is a new project, I would say, that's coming out, or it's already kind of released. It's called Collective Voices for Change. I'm showing that on the screen now. It is there's the URL at the bottom there, facebook.com/collective voices for change / So do you know what this is? Do you have anything to say about it?
We have some people in the chat who can say much better about. But I think if there is a group of people who want to create, want to create change and like reach out to the different schools, or people who are teaching this dance, and get together, and there's some panel talks that that are happening that I think that would be important to listen to. But then also I think there's kind of touch bases, and it just going to be hopefully be a community with other dance schools so that you can work together and like suggest different things to hopefully everyone can make a change or do a collective shift.
Yeah, it does feel
That
like
was terribly.
no. I mean, again, I think it's like, to me, this Lindy Hop ship has really taken a specific direction, and it feels like this is trying to right that ship, get that ship in back more in line, or in line, not more in line, but actually in line with the values of the ancestors of this dance. So we would both encourage everyone to definitely go check Collective Voices for Change on Facebook. They've got a beautiful mission statement that they've written. Marie's posted a video as well. Like the page, follow the page, because I feel like it's going to be a great resource for the entire community. Like you said, students, teachers, organizers, all of us, to try to figure out how to get Lindy Hop, not necessarily decolonized, that wasn't part of their mission statement, but definitely
back on track.
Back on track, because as great as it is, I think you were saying something about saving the dance. What did you say about saving the dance?
I mean, yeah, sometimes people say that the white people were the ones who saved the dance, but just because there's more people doing it doesn't mean the dance was necessarily saved. It just means more people are doing something, maybe not the original intention of the dance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, they also have Instagram. Thank you, Helena and Mo and everyone else. They also have an Instagram.
I'll put it in.
Yeah, put that in the chat. Thank you. I would say that I can speak as an American, as are you. We have a very unique relationship to the world, and even to our own citizens. That's a big ass euphemism for saying, like, we've done some crazy ass things, and we have yet to still acknowledge that in an honest way, which is, I think, really the first step towards making a positive change. And I feel like there are people in the Lindy Hop scene who are genuinely interested in acknowledging all the pain that exists due to people who look like me, and I'm absolutely a contributor to that. And I think those who are not interested in the history of it, or the the getting connected to the culture of the dance. I don't think the dance needs that mentality. We don't need those people because they're just detracting and taking away from the actual beauty of this dance.
Yeah. And then if you care about this, then maybe you will support the events and the organizers and the classes and the teachers who are, have the same school of thought. Yeah, like support with your money.
That's the best, yeah. Vote and support with your money. That's the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
I feel like, is there anything else that there's so much we could say, but I feel...
I think I got the point across and didn't light too many fires.
Look, I think some things got to burn down, like, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, burn down, rebuild.
And I think it's not throwing shade just to be shady. I think there's some real honest and hard conversations that have been happening but need to continue happening.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that you're a great representative of the dance because of all the sabor, as you say, all the flavor that you bring to it, and all the different influences and ideas.
Yeah. I don't know if the world will change right away. Maybe not for a couple of generations of dancers, but I mean, what you can start to do is maybe, try different dances, and then be part of those communities, like the way that you have joined this Lindy Hop community. Be part of those communities. Make friends of color. But then don't be a culture vulture and be like, well, I got 3 moves and now I'm gonna make this cool hybrid that it's also like learning a language, and go and immerse yourself in other things and really learn it if you care. And there's so many awesome dances that have happened since World War II. There's so many other dances, so many different types of music that are so cool and have tons of flavor and tons of stank and tons of grease and and tons of emotion and soul. So you don't have to just limit yourself to jazz. You can always bring those feelings and those intentions back into your jazz. Yeah.
Tine, you're great. Thank
You're
you.
Great.
The drink was great too.
Oh, that was good. Another.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time. You've been lovely.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, good. Give it up for Tine, everybody. If there's any sort of other webs, I feel like there's other promotional things. Oh, here's that playlist, by the way.
Oh, there we
So
go.
I'm going to give people a chance to look at it. You can't click on it, but at least I can share Tine was kind enough, like I said at the beginning, to make a sweet YouTube playlist of videos. So if you wanted to go down rabbit holes,
I'll put it in the YouTube chat because it's a
easier thing to do. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, it's in the YouTube chat.
Beautiful.
And there's lots of awesome videos of Marge and Brian and Ijo and Terry and my crew, Mau. Yeah.
You with your long hair.
I know, my long hair.
All right. Well, I'd say let's go. Let's hang up here. Let's go make another drink.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Syncopated City appreciates you. Evita, I know you're there because I've seen you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else who's joined and contributed. We really appreciate it. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. Get some sabor.
Sabor.
Bye, team.
Bye.